Hello and welcome to episode number 4 of Remembering Our Generations. Now, for anybody who's checked out the first 3 episodes, Vince, they may notice there's a little different look, and the reason for that is we have previously shown the show on Caddick Riff's TV. I'm no longer associated with that site. They were no longer interested in the show, but I got permission to kind of relaunch it. So that's what we're doing here today. Bigger and better than ever before. I think we finally kind of found our footing, our voice, if you will, the character of a show. With no further ado, we thought we'd talk about, I know, one of your favorite artists of all time, Jimi Hendrix, today. So let's get into how you first, got into the music of Jimi Hendrix. I know the story a little bit myself, but for people that don't, let's share that with them.
Well, surely. Hi, everybody, and hello, Jason. Thank you again for all of this, and I love the background.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
as far as the Hendrix goes, remember I had started with the Beatles, and so I just kept up on everything that was coming through from the British invasion stuff, the newer American stuff. And when he came out, we had a back. I'm from New York originally. You can't tell it that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, we had a station called WNEW, really major album-oriented rock station that went through what they call the tri-state area. It was everywhere. And they started playing his first record, his first album, rather, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and it was nothing like it was there. Remember, he came in around 1967 with the Flower Power, psychedelia, and all of that stuff. Now, his music was so unusual. The style was so unusual. It was completely, to us,
Yeah.
completely groundbreaking. There was no question it was groundbreaking. And so the interest started. A year later, I joined the local big time high school rock band at 16 years old. We did probably at least half of that album.
Mm.
Uh, and so I enjoyed playing it. It helped me stretch my playing and all of that. And we'll get into Mitch Mitchell a little bit later on.
Okay, okay. That's going to be my next question now. Um, Now, I was curious. I know you're a big fan of the British invasion. Obvious question here, Vince, would be: would you consider Hendrix part of that British invasion? The reason I ask, he was very much an American, but for a couple of years he went over and lived in London, England, and was taken into life over there. So, what do you think his influence was on the British invasion music?
Well, people mistakenly thought he was from Great Britain because
Okay,
that's
yeah,
where they got broken. And now, just some of the background, if anybody of you don't, anyone out there doesn't realize, Chaz Chandler, the keyboard player from the Animals, became his manager back in '66. He moved out there just prior to that, and just a couple of months later, he found them, and a few months later, they found the Jimi Hendrix Experience Band with Noel Redding, the bassist, and Mitch Mitchell, the drummer. After that, they recorded that record, and the rest is history.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
it all came from there. And in fact, there's something that happened a little bit later on in Great Britain, and a story that happened with the Beatles. If you want to go back into that, we'll get to that part. But when they came here, they were considered British invasion and fit right in with the Summer of Love, which is why I'm wearing this shirt.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, from Haight Ashbury. So this is I wanted to acknowledge the period,
yeah,
very unique, and for those of you younger folks who want to know a little bit something to us, that generation of the '60s and '70s was one of the best times to be alive for music because it was all new. We had the '50s doo-wop stuff and Elvis, but when the Beatles came in and all the rest followed, there was nothing like it. Nothing will ever be like it again. Everything gets recycled, so some of that was music that was recreated, or they took some of the hits and redid it. Hendrix did that on a number of occasions.
sure.
It was all original sounding, driven by electric guitars and driving drums, and It's what speaks to my musical soul.
And you make a lot of very great points there, Vince. One of which is while he was a great original music artist, he did a lot of great covers. I mean, obvious one that comes to mind is the Bob Dylan song "All Along the Watchtower."
Right.
And then I don't know if you're aware of this, but I think we mentioned this in our Cream episode. That he also I found on YouTube does a great cover of the Cream song "Sunshine of Your Love."
I did not know that, but
Yeah.
there's one that never resurfaced until he played in England, one of his very first shows. The Beatles show up, they're there. I don't even think he knew that they were going to be there.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
backstage before the show, he tells these guys, I want to do Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. They literally just talked about it, maybe ran through it a little bit. Here's how it should go. He gets out there, there's Paul, there's John, blah blah blah, and their mind was blown when you read their what they said about Hendrix. They their jaws dropped. They couldn't believe it. Nothing like that. And of course, Hendrix took it and did his Hendrix
Sure.
psychedelic spin on that. So it was just wow.
Yeah, another great point you make is the fact of, when Hendrix came out in the late 60s, 1963, I think, to 1970 when he died was kind of his career. And what's interesting about that is, a couple of things. Like he's primarily, of course, known. I mean, you'll hear a lot of people say he is the greatest guitar player of all time. A lot of people get that, but he's definitely one of them. And yet, I was reading, interestingly enough, like a lot of musicians that people may or may not know about this of him, he could also play the bass, the piano, the drums. One of those guys that can kind of do it all. And he although he could sing, you hear more about his guitar playing. And I heard, but he's a little shy about, being the lead singer, but it kind of just fell on him.
Right. And people don't realize he was a backing band person for the Isley Brothers.
Oh,
They
wow.
broke him in. They broke him in. And so he had some experience, but he, of course, wanted more than likely. Moved to England, and that's what happened.
The rest is
Um,
history, they say. Yeah.
his history, just great stuff, great songs that were very representative. Probably is a good word of the era.
Yeah, yeah.
Of
And
the era.
Vince, whenever I hear the name Hendrix brought up, not only do people talk about his amazing guitar playing, we're going to get into some of that next, but he's people refer to him as a hard rock, heavy metal artist. There's definitely elements of that throughout his music, but I say he leans a little more towards hard rock than even heavy metal. What's interesting is if you go throughout the whole entire Hendrix catalog, he's got elements of everything, and I think it has a lot to do with the period he came out in, psychedelic, hard rock, even a little funk in his music.
Actually, let's go get down to
Blues.
the real bottom roots:
Yeah,
blues, rock, and jazz. I'm going to
yeah,
shut
there you
the
go.
phone down. My son just
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
um, uh, 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 jazz because Mitch Mitchell was a
Okay.
jazz drummer, and he brought his element. And this is where I would like to bring him in, if that's okay. Is
Sure,
that
sure.
so? Mitch Mitchell was not a rock drummer. He held the sticks traditionally. The other guys were starting to come in playing the what they call a matched grip like this, and he was Mitch was very instrumental to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in how the music was arranged and brought forward. Same with Noel Redding. Noel was a kind of a jazzy bass player, and so Hendrix took that element and ran with it. But his background is really in blues and then rock, but more
Okay.
blues. And people mistakenly think he's a heavy metal. No,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
Zeppelin.
yeah.
That's Zeppelin. He didn't sing like a heavy metal
No,
artist. He didn't play like a heavy metal artist. But what he did as an innovator, Hendrix, was to incorporate into his sound the fuzz, the heavy, the wah wah,
Yeah.
all these different newer technologies that they could manipulate electronic
Yeah.
sounds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
wow,
I mean, I think part of that too, why he gets labeled as a heavy metal artist, is if you look at any of his live videos of live performances over the years, um, very electrifying live to see. I mean, I was reading, and you've probably seen these performances on YouTube, where he's playing the guitar with his teeth. He's playing like this,
uh,
playing it on his back. Um, things you send the guitar and fire things that a lot of other guitar players would never even attempt.
right. It's funny. I married. I moved to San Diego in '93. I met and married a girl in '95.
Wow, wow.
She tells me I saw Jimi Hendrix experience at the San Diego Coliseum, whatever they call that place.
Yeah, yeah.
There's an arena. She
Wow.
doesn't. She doesn't remember it. She tells me, "Don't. I'm not going to play this in front of
Okay, yeah, yeah.
her."
That's fun.
He
Now,
doesn't remember it.
wow.
Too
So I
bad.
was curious, Vince, being a drummer, you talk about Mitch Mitchell, and I guessing as you're coming up at that time as a drummer, um, you're probably much more into rock music, the '60s, a lot of stuff you were coming up with from that era that we know you were influenced by. So when you're hearing the Jimi Hendrix experience for the first time, um, is it the drum sound of Mitch Mitchell that's really kind of getting you into the music, or are you equally into the guitar playing and the singing of Hendrix?
It was the entire sound
Okay.
that they made when it was so unique. Same thing, kind of with Cream.
Yeah.
Let's add that on. And so Cream was one of the kind of bluesy rock, heavy metal stuff before Zeppelin. And so I just thought this was so unique. It was so attention getting,
Mhm.
and everything, folks, you just have to remember the era was a real hodgepodge. It was making a musical stew.
Yeah.
It was all kinds of music was on what was called top 40 radio at the time.
Yeah.
And so we had everything: Motown, Stax, uh, still the 50s were still creeping in a little bit. Um, all these different elements. And then another band that completely broke the mold that got everybody's attention, the Moody Blues,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
symphonic rock.
Yeah.
So we had everything going on. And so this was just one of those, it was new, but it was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
my goodness, what is going on here? To hear the playing, which was so in a sense heavenly, if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want, was so unusual and attention getting, and that's what really I think attracted was the three men making a brand new genre of music.
Sure. Sure.
Really, really interesting stuff.
I mean, because even together they're like dynamite. You know what I mean? All together, where there was these musicians that would go on, of course, to have careers long after the Jimi Hendrix experience. Some of them, they're equally impressive on their own, doing their own projects, but together they bring that dynamic sound. Now, let me ask you, Vince. At this time, a young musician, starting out in your life at that time. Um, were you taking in all these sounds? What I mean is like, did you want to have your own original sound, doing your own thing, or did you want to incorporate all these sounds into what you were doing?
I was learning.
Yeah,
It was just educational for me, learning the different styles.
sure.
Uh, when I started in later '64, I actually started not just on Beatles records, but Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass,
Wow.
and also the ventures with surf music was big. So I was learning all these different styles, and I still loved the crooners. I still loved Bobby Darin,
Wow.
and of course Sinatra and all that. So I took all of that together and I learned to play all these different styles.
Yeah.
Then later on, how to play disco and all these different things. So I'm a pretty versatile player, and it's all just education. It's a big mishmash. I didn't stick with one. I'm just a heavy
Yeah, yeah,
metal drummer. I'm just a rock drummer.
yeah,
I took
yeah.
everything.
I figured that, Vince, because I think that's why you're such a versatile type of musician, and I think it's helped you in your career with the simple fact that even in your current age, you're able to get all these different gigs. You're always out gigging because you can do many types of different styles of music.
That's true. I believe that that's true. I've only had one person in my lifetime say that they didn't like my drumming.
Well,
It
yeah,
was devastating.
they're the lone wolf there, right? Yeah,
Well, that's you can't please everybody,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But you move on from things and you grow. I've always been a proponent to want to learn all different styles because it kept me to grow as a
Sure,
person and as a musician,
sure.
in that, and then learning how to work in a unit where it's collaborative
Yeah, yeah,
versus it's just about you.
yeah, yeah.
No, drums and bass, they're the basis of the rest of the
Yeah,
band.
yeah. Vince, as I was posting this morning that we are going to be doing the show today, I was sharing people some of what we've done in the past with Remembering Woodstock. I was sharing with them, go back and listen to some of the stuff we did before. Vince has a great radio um, voice. I said, but I love doing the new show with you because we can now see each other when we talk. And I just tell people, Vince, because of his, we do come from different generations. That's why we named the show Remembering Our Generations, because with this new show, we can talk. We're not limited to just talk about Woodstock era music. We can talk about any era of music we want. And I like to call you the rock and roll historian for the simple fact that, and that's not really a reference to your age, but it's for the simple fact that listen to some of those names you just mentioned, like Bobby Darin, The Ventures. Some people listening to this might not be aware of who those artists are, but I hope after seeing this episode, they might go on YouTube and do a search on Bobby Darin and find out how great that music was.
Oh, I loved Bobby Darin. I
Yeah,
still do. He has a special place right here. Mac the Knife. Everybody knows Mac the Knife.
yeah.
But
See,
that's
that one's
just a tiny bit
yeah.
of what he did. He covered If I Was a Carpenter
Wow, wow.
brilliantly.
Yeah, yeah. And think how years after his death, McDonald's started using that in their advertising, and all of a sudden it became popular again. That one
Right?
song. Yeah,
Right? Just as an aside, I did not ever see, and you know this story already.
yeah,
I did not ever see Hendrix in person. I've seen many of the greats, but I didn't see him. Why? We went to Woodstock, my friends. We lived not that far away, but we left around 10 that night. It got too cold after all the rain, and then the
the
temperature
mud.
dropped.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's get out of here. And everybody knew he was coming, but he was dead last, as we know.
Vince, and the great thing about that, as much as you would have loved to see Hendrix and all those other great acts, is that's how we really made our connection initially. I'd interviewed you before, but you're telling me, Jason, I'd love to do an interview about. In fact, it was kind of come full circle because the first thing I did was I think interviewing you around COVID time is you're telling me your favorite album. I think one of them was Jimi Hendrix, Access, Bold and Love. So we did an episode talking about that. And during that interview, you shared with me, hey, I got to attend one day of Woodstock, and
Right.
and I thought, I got to hear this story. So what started out as going to be one interview, it launched into a radio podcast because I realized there was so much more to that story from the guy that only got attended one day. Man, I wasn't even alive then in 1969. I wish I could. So to talk to somebody that was there just one day, hey, you know,
Well, I was only there with 450,000 of my friends.
there you go. Yeah, yeah. And what a memory, because I mean, some of us, see these documentaries on TV, and you see the rain, the flood, everything that was going on. It's like, so to be talking to a guy that was actually experiencing that, wow.
It's a memory that has lingered forever. Many of us that went together are still walking around today. and we just share something special. And those
Yeah,
are guys from my first band.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. You know,
ever,
Vince,
ever.
I'm gonna share something with you. I'm gonna be doing a show in a couple, probably tomorrow, on the 50th anniversary of Foghat's "Fool for the City" album,
Oh
and
wow!
what I learned was one of my favorite songs off that is "Telephone Blues." Of course, it's originally done by Robert Johnson. I think the song originally came out in the 1930s. I always loved the Foghat version. I never knew it was a cover until just recently. And so I go and listen to the original Robert Johnson version. It's a little more of a blues sound, and I dig it for what it was because you can't deny it. It was the original thing. But interesting enough, it was the biggest hit of his career, but yet Foghat didn't even chart with the song.
Well, but people don't realize, especially the younger
Yeah,
folks, don't realize how many of the very limited songs that Robert Johnson did
yeah.
that got re-recorded as rock songs
There you go.
later on. That Crossroads there's plenty of Robert Johnson stuff out there. Love in Vain,
There you yeah. See,
Robert Johnson.
a
That's
lot of
the
these
song.
artists, their songs, even after they died, live on, through some of these other artists that covered it. That's a great thing about music. That's how a lot of this great music gets discovered by people.
That's because we're all influenced by the past
Yeah.
somehow. I mean, if you're not influenced by the past, then you're just some real
Yeah.
odd
In, yeah.
oddity.
In fact, I'm gonna give you a trivia question here, Vince. I see if you can get it's pretty simple, but just off the top of your head, getting back to Hendrix, um, would you guess that he sold more albums when he was alive or after his death?
Oh, well after his death.
Yeah, yeah,
It's always that way, though.
yeah,
It always seems to be that way. Just for tributes, just
sure,
let's call it just tribute bands. Many of the tribute bands are the most successful now is because the bands that don't exist anymore
yeah,
don't exist anymore.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Somebody, Tom Petty. How many Tom Petty people are out there?
yeah.
How many Beatles bands, which long 50 something years, 55 years, no longer are out there? It's because that music has died and people want to connect with their past,
Yeah, yeah.
relive the music that they love, and so they what's that word? They not put up with. They accept the fact that some need to wear wigs, or don't really look like the
Uh,
original, or these sorts of things. As long as the music is there and the intent is there, I think that people see beyond that. They appreciate what's going on. They know that you're not the real
I mean,
thing.
I appreciate for the fact the really good ones that do get dressed up. Those are my favorite ones because they go kind of the extra mile. Like you
That's
said,
fine.
the Beatles are no longer around, but I've seen the Fab Four. They're a great Beatles tribute band. They look the part, they sound the part, and I can tell you, I've seen them about four times now. And the fun thing is about the Fab Four. Each time I go see the show, it's a little different. It's not like I've seen before.
Right. And in fact, that's part of the beauty of having such a large catalog.
Yeah,
When I was with the Stones group, we did the whole thing, but as they were matured, not as they were younger in
sure.
their younger day. And that's part of what made the success, the living that fantasy.
Yeah.
There's going to be a group coming out starting next year that's all about the Moody Blues.
Oh, yeah, I seen that. Yeah, so we have to talk about that.
You know
Um,
who I'm talking about, right?
yeah, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Me!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's great, Vince. Again, you're involved in all these great projects. And I think it's because you are such a versatile musician. And what I was reading about Hendrix too, um, the reason in regards to him, not just like a lot of artists, but the reason he sold more maybe dead than alive is because I was reading at the time when he died in 1970, he only had three studio albums out. So since his death, a lot more of these releases have come out. He's got over like 200 releases that have come out since his death. I was reading, and they said Jimi Hendrix is one of those artists because he died so young. There's this fascination that he's part of this 27 Club. Kurt Cobain, Jim
Right.
Morrison, Janis Joplin, all these artists that died at 27, and they said Jimi Hendrix, even though he only had like 3 studio albums at the time of his death, more and more people through stuff like YouTube are discovering his music year after year.
Well, let's not forget, after the first three, he had Band of Gypsies.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yes. There you go. Yeah.
His death, but that was Band of Gypsies. Those were not the first three, including Electric Ladyland, which was
Yeah.
a double. So he
Yeah.
could have really put out 4 albums.
Yeah.
Could have, but they put those together, and then he had Band of Gypsies, which he needed to grow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as just so people know, Noel Redding left first, and then Mitch stayed for a while, and then they changed that all over with musicians and did Buddy Miles as the drummer. I forget who the bass player is. His old friend from
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
army, and they created Band of Gypsies, and they created a different sound for Hendrix. And then he passed.
And you know, because it's amazing because he died so young, yet he inspired a lot of great guitar players that were coming up at the time. Everybody, you know, from Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, even Slash and Prince.
Oh, you really hear Stevie Ray in the playing.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no question about that. Oh, and many, 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 many others. Even if it's just bits and pieces that they're borrowing, as
yeah.
we say, we're going to borrow a phrase, borrowing from him. Just music is magic.
And I think, you know, interestingly enough, Prince is one of those artists that it's not just the fact that they were both, you know, black artists, but I think Prince has a lot of similarities, even though, you know, he's more pop oriented stuff. He's got maybe, I think he got a lot of his funk maybe from listening to Hendrix, you know?
Well, that's a great point. A great point. I think it's very much a truism when you can see
Yeah,
how he manipulated the guitar and the different sounds,
yeah,
which
yeah.
were really borrowed from Hendrix, just done like Prince does them. That's all.
Yeah,
Like
and
he,
you know, you mentioned Woodstock earlier, and one of Hendrix's most legendary performances was at Woodstock when he did that amazing version of the national anthem. I mean, he didn't just play like it had been played, you know, thousands of times before. He really put his spin on it.
and that version lives on and on through him. Just you're hearing it again, but many people go ahead and imitate, copy, cover that
Yeah.
song at the beginning of ball games, for goodness
Mhm.
sake. You know,
Oh, yeah,
doing the
that's
national
a
anthem.
national pastime, as they say.
It
Um,
really, Jimmy, with the shortness of his life, left a lot of stuff for us to dig into, to learn from, and to just appreciate and enjoy, because music is part of the joy of living.
Sure, sure. And so let me ask you, Vince. You know, you were there. I was very young, just barely. No, I wasn't even alive until 1971, so I wasn't even there when he died. But you were. So go back in time and kind of share what that day was like, what you remember about hearing about the death of Jimi Hendrix, how you learned.
Oh, it was like, what? Of course, you know what? Devastating, because he's one of your heroes who just ended, um, and and uh, and seemed to have the world as his oyster.
Yeah,
There are several interviews. I think he did one with Dick Cavett, if I'm not mistaken. That's just a wonderful interview. You got to see inside his mind a little bit,
sure.
what he was like as a guy, as a person. Um, he left so much too soon, but
Yeah,
that
you know,
was
it's amazing, Vince. I got to ask you, was there a lot of talk at the time? Was anybody aware, you think, or as much talked about at the time about him being on drugs or people thinking he was?
well, sure.
Uh,
And you know, a lot of that stuff did come up.
yeah,
He died of barbiturate overdose.
yeah.
Uh,
The reason I ask is because I think I may have seen that interview you were talking about on Dick Cavett. I came across it on YouTube, and the amazing thing is people talk about what an electrifying performer, and he just went crazy on stage. He did. There's no denying that. But I seen like in that interview, like you're talking, he didn't come across as like a drugged out, you know, stoner.
No.
crazy, drug addict or anything. He was very soft spoken.
And a bit of an esoteric intellectual.
Yeah.
He really he needed to control what he said,
Yeah.
partly I think because of his past. Remember, he was in the army,
Uh,
and when you're in the army, you have to be straight and narrow, and I think he carried some of that into his personality later on.
yeah.
Although he only lasted 1 year, he was a paratrooper.
Wow. Yeah.
He was a paratrooper. So I don't know if he got kicked out or what he did to get relieved of his duty that much quickly, that quickly. I don't know any of that background, but
Okay. Okay.
I'm
Now,
sure some of it was
yeah,
hung over.
before you wrap this up for today, Vince, I got to ask obvious question. So, what would be some of your key Hendrix tracks?
Oh goodness. Oh, I know a few that we're playing with bangers these days is Stone Free,
Okay. Wow.
Fire, Purple Haze,
That's a great one.
Wind Cries Mary, Crosstown. Now we're getting a little lit. Crosstown Traffic, those kinds of tracks. Some Spanish Castle Magic.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
if six were nine, great. No, if six were nine, yeah, it's right. I think that's him. Yeah.
Okay. I would. So, do you know that song? Because I think that's a Chicago song, or did they just cover it?
No, they did 25 or 6 to 4.
Oh, okay. Confused me. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah,
And then later on, the Dylan tune.
yeah,
Um, uh, Geez, so many. I mean, there's so many that you could just draw on and go, "Oh, I played that one," or "I love that Dolly Dagger."
yeah, yeah.
Love Dolly Dagger.
I love Purple Haze. I think that's ultimate. Um,
Play that
so
one too.
Foxy Lady always gets me. It's got a real funky thing going with it, and I remember like in the '90s, Ozzy Osbourne of all people covered Purple Haze.
Uh, and what about the first track that's on Access, which is that the alien from out of space, and they're going side to side with the
Wow.
audio,
Yeah,
and you have
yeah.
headphones on or listening, but right in front of a stereo. You're just like, wow, because he kind of invented that thing too, the panning left and right. Just wow.
Yeah, in closing, Vince, I think too, one thing we can say about Hendrix is he lived fast, he died young, and yet look at the legacy he left. Look at the innovation and all that stuff, all those great sounds he created.
Yeah, very. This is wonderful, and thank you to Chaz Chandler
Sure.
for managing him and exposing him to the world.
Yeah, and I would love to see a movie done on Hendrix properly, like one of those biofilms that
I
they've
don't
been
think
putting.
we have one. I don't remember there's not.
I
No,
seen I seen a few attempts, but nothing like that was really out in the theater or anything.
right. It maybe he's like a character that's brought into some other story.
Yeah, I will say this though, in closing, that he's one of these guys that live fast, die young, kind of like a James Dean type. But you know what? Amazingly, he left his mark. We're still
Oh,
talking about him.
he sure did. Thank you, my friend, for all of this. Really do
Okay, Vince,
appreciate
you
your
take care of
time.
us. Keep going up later today. I'll send you the link once it's up. And just to share with people, Vince and I were talking for the next month's episode. We're going to do Elvis Presley, so that'll be fun.
That'd be great. That's my initial memory. My
Okay,
initial musical memory is Elvis. So
okay, and
got a
then we
lot
can
to
also
say
get
on
into Elvis, Elvis a rock star, and Elvis a movie star.
that.
Yeah.
Hey, he got put in some interesting situations he didn't quite like to do in the movies.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, Vince. I'm so happy you were able to relaunch the show with me. I'm looking forward to the next episode. Take care, my
You
friend.
got it, buddy. Take care. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye bye.